Good afternoon. We'll start a lecture. First, check your voice. Uh, can everybody hear me? If there is some problem in voice, please write it in the chat. If you cannot hear me or if you feel like the volume is very low. Okay. So we'll start. I'm hoping everybody has seen all the three basic chapters. In our third chapter, random variable, we saw how we can find our probabilities, expected value, and variance. Now, for any data, these three are very much important. Now, why are they important? So first of all, whenever you're trying to predict a future, what we do is we use our past data and we analyze it. So one of these three are the most important tools of analysis. Now, if you want to predict the next value, you would list down all the probabilities. So we say list down all the possible values. Let's say I'm rolling a dice which favors 5 and 6. So I'll say I have 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, where let's say probability of getting 5 is, let's say, 2 by 8, and 6 is 2 by 8. The others are 1 by 8. So just by looking at this probability distribution, we can say most likely we don't know what value we'll get, but 5 and 6 will occur more than 1 2 3 4. Right. So just looking at the probability distribution, we can talk about what might occur next. So if I have to bet what will happen next, I'll say either 5 or 6 is most likely to occur. But we know the probability is not that big that we will not get 1 2 3 4. So we can still get 1 2 3 4. It's not a big deal. And when we talk about a long-term analysis, if we want to see that if I roll the dice again and again and again, let's say 1,000 times, then averagely each term, what value should I get? That becomes our expected value. And it can be standard deviation above or standard deviation below our expected value. That is why we calculate our variance. That is, how much will it vary from our expected value? How much can we expect it to vary? That becomes our measure variance. So that is why we require these three tools. Now, whenever we have data, we cannot always carry the data everywhere, and whenever we require calculate our expected value, variances, and probability, so it becomes very difficult. So what we do is, when we see patterns, we make it into distributions that we call as our probability distributions. So because we cannot carry our data everywhere and we need to analyze, we'll have to add up all values and divide by n if we want expected value. Or for variance also, you'll have to divide all the values, and if you have thousands and thousands and thousands of values, it becomes more and more difficult to find expected value, variances, and probabilities each and every time. So what we do is we collect similar kind of data, and if we find that we see that pattern again and again, we make it into a distribution, a model that we call it as distribution. So because our data is of two types, we have two types of distribution as well. We have discrete and we have continuous. So first we are going to see discrete data. In this discrete data, the first distribution that we are going to see is going to be our uniform distribution. Now in a uniform distribution, we say there is only one property, that is our each value is equally likely to occur. Now when we say each value is equally likely to occur, that means that if I have n values, then the probability of our one will be equal to probability of our second will be equal to probability of each value. So equal probability of each value. That means probability of individual becomes 1 by n. A simple example is dice. When we say that we have a dice, we say that each value is equally likely. Why do we say each value is equally likely? Because we say that each face is exactly same. So physically it is exactly same. The weight distribution is exactly same. So when I roll a dice, I will get I can get any value any single time. So that is why we are saying they are equally likely. So the probability becomes 1 by 6, and we'll say the probability is equal for all 6 of them. The probability becomes 1 by 6. So first is uniform. We'll take an example where we'll say our x belongs to nothing but 1, 2, 3 till n. So we are taking first n natural numbers. Here we'll say probability that our x is equals to a particular value x would be nothing but 1 by n. Here if we want to find expected value of x, our formula for expected value is summation for all values of x into probability of x. Our x is going from 1 to n, and this becomes x into 1 by n. N is just a constant, so I'll take it out, and this is nothing but summation x is equals to 1 to n x. This is nothing but sum of first n natural numbers. We say sum of our first n natural numbers is nothing but n into n plus 1 by 2. Now this is nothing but a special series that you should always remember. Now how do we find this? Using our arithmetic progression. So it is expected for you to know this. Sum of first n natural numbers becomes this. So here we are going to get 1 by n into n plus 1 by 2. So our expected value becomes n plus 1 by 2. Now similarly, we can find expected value of x square to find our variance. So that becomes summation for all values of x. We'll have x square into probability of x. So that would be our x going from 1 to n, our x square into 1 by n. So again 1 by n is constant, comes out, I'll get summation x square where x is going from 1 to n. Now this is another special series that you should remember. This is sum of square of first n natural numbers. So I'll say it is summation k square, that is nothing but n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 by 6. So we'll substitute that. So this becomes our expected value of x square. So we have another special series that you should remember that we have not actually used, but you should remember, and that is nothing but sum of cubes of first and natural numbers, that is summation k cube, that would be n into n plus 1 by 2 the whole square. So sum of first and natural numbers, sum of square of first and natural numbers, and sum of cube of first and natural numbers. So these are some special series that you should remember the formula for. For variance, we'll say our expected value of x square minus expected value of x the whole square. So I'll take n plus 1 by 2 common, and I'll be left with 2n plus 1 by 3 minus n plus 1 by 2. So we'll get n plus 1 into n minus 1 by 12, that is our n square minus 1 by 12. So this is nothing but our uniform distribution, where we are assuming that we have first n natural numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till n. A simple example is a dice. We say our x, the possible values of x is nothing but are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and probability of each value will be nothing but 1 by 6, right? So our expected value n is equal to nothing but 6, so we'll get 7 by 2, that becomes 3.5, and variance we'll have 36 minus 1 divided by so we'll get variance is nothing but 2.91667. So for uniform distribution, our expected value and variance are these formulas. Now the derivations of these distributions are not asked, but you should know the method by which we are solving. So that means you should know these formulas and how to use them. These were our formulas that we used: sum of first and natural numbers, sum of square of first and natural numbers, and sum of cube of first and natural numbers. So this was our uniform distribution. Now here we took a particular value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till n. Not necessarily our values will be this way. It can be anything. So I can have my x belonging to something like a plus d, a plus 2d, a plus 3d till I'll say b minus d and b. Okay. So I'm taking arithmetic progression. Now, not necessarily for uniform distribution, there should be some logic behind our values, but we are taking a logic because we'll be able to find only for logic. Here we'll find expected value for this. So these are our values. We will assume that we have n values. So our nth value, that is b, will be equal to our a plus n minus 1 d. Right, our last value is going to be a plus n minus 1 d. So if I want to find n, my n, so I'll have b minus a, then I'll divide by d, and then I will add 1. You can rearrange and check. This is what we are going to get. So we say probability that x will be a particular value x is 1 by n, because this is uniform distribution. That becomes nothing but d by b minus a plus d. Now we'll say expected value. Expected value summation for all values of x will have x into probability of x. Probability of x, I will still take 1 by n. I'll take it outside and it's a summation for all values of x, x. X is nothing but our arithmetic progression. Now sum of our arithmetic progression, sum of AP is what? We have n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1 d, or in other terms we say n by 2, say a plus b, first and the last term. So these are our formulas for sum of AP. I will use the second one and I'll say this is nothing but 1 by n into n by 2 a plus b. So our expected value becomes a plus b by 2. So that is, if each value is equally likely, averagely, we should get the middle value, and the middle value is going to be our first term plus last term divided by 2. So you can check that when we took our 1 to n, that was also an arithmetic progression, and n plus 1 by 2 is nothing but first term plus last term divided by 2. We'll not find variance because it's a complicated formula, not part of our course. So this is for a general uniform distribution. We'll go to our next distribution. Our next distribution is Bernoulli's distribution. Now Bernoulli's distribution is also called as Bernoulli's trial. Now because we say we are taking one trial such that we have two possibilities, either a success or a failure, that we'll take it as 0 or 1, and we know the probability of success, that is, we write it as theta. So that is why our probability of failure becomes 1 minus theta, because we have only two possible outcomes. Now simple example would be a lottery ticket. Now if let's say that I am selling 100 lottery tickets, out of which only one is going to win, then probability of success, probability of winning a lottery becomes 0.01, and probability of losing a lottery becomes 99% or 0.99. So Bernoulli's distribution, or we also call it as a Bernoulli's trial. So here we are saying that our x has only two possibilities. We will have success or failure. We'll call it as 0 and 1. Failure being 0 and success being 1. So probability that my x will be equal to 1 is theta. So probability x is equals to 0 becomes 1 minus theta. So we are taking one single trial. So therefore, our expected value, I can write a general term. So I'll say probability x is equals to x would just be theta raised to x 1 minus theta raised to 1 minus x. So when x is 0, I will get 1 minus theta, and when x is 1, I will get theta. So we say our expected value, summation for all values of x, x into probability of x. We have only two values of x, 0 and 1. So we'll say 0 into 1 minus theta plus 1 into theta. That becomes theta. Expected value of x square for all values of x square into probability of x. So we'll say again 0 into 1 minus theta plus 1 square into 1 minus 1 square into theta. That would be nothing but theta again. So what's our variance? Variance formula, we'll say expected value of x square minus expected value of x the whole square. That we will get theta minus theta square. We write it as theta into 1 minus theta. So this becomes our variance of Bernoulli's distribution. So we have expected value as theta and variance as theta into 1 minus theta. How is theta expected value logically? Now I will give you an example. A simple example is, let's say, tossing a coin. So if I say what is the expected number of heads you are going to get in one toss, so you'll say if I take heads as 1 and tails as 0, I will say that I will get half heads and half tails. So how do we get this half? Half is nothing but the probability. Similarly, if I say that the coins are not coins are not fair coins, it favors heads more than it favors tails, that means I am getting 60% times heads and I am getting 40% times tails. So our expected value would be what? We have taken heads as 1 and tails as 0. So we directly get 60% or 0.6 into 1 plus 0.4 into 0. So even though we are getting the value theta, that is basically average value of our zeros and ones that we are going to get. So even though we are getting our expected value as theta, that is not probability. That is the number of zeros and number of ones. So that how do we get that? We get 60% heads and 40% tails. We are saying that if we toss the coin 100 times, we are going to get 60 heads and 40 tails. This is what we found. So that is why we said that it is favoring heads more than tails. Correct. So for one single toss, one trial would be one single toss, right? So Bernoulli's trial becomes one single toss. Probability of heads was 60 and probability of tails was 40. So let's say we took our example of lottery where our probability of success was 0.01 and probability of failure was 0.99. Would you bet on this lottery? Most likely not, right? Why would we not bet on this lottery? Because we'll say most likely we will lose. Probability of losing is very large. Does that mean that nobody is going to win? Of course not. One person is definitely going to win because there is still a chance of winning. And why cannot we be that person to win? So we can still be the person who can win, right? So we can win even though likelihood of that winning is very, very small, and we can lose and likelihood of losing is very large. But if you do this again and again and again and again, your expected value of winning is going to be 0.01. That is nothing but theta. That means each and every time averagely you are winning this much amount. So let's say if you are winning 1 rupee every single time, and if you lose you get 0 rupees. So every single time averagely you are getting 0.01. That means you will have to play 100 times, then you will win once. It is not necessary that whether this is the first try you will win, or in the second try you will win, or in the third try you will win. There is no guarantee. But if you play it again and again and again, that means if you play, let's say, 10,000 times, you will win only 100 times. Maybe it could be 101, maybe it could be 102, 2, maybe it could be 98, maybe it could be 99. It will be around 100 times. Correct. So this is what we can expect. We can expect that if you play this lottery 10,000 times, around 100 times you would win. So our expectation becomes each time you are winning 100 divided by 10,000, that would be 0.01. Right. So this becomes our expected winnings as well. So this becomes our Bernoulli's trial. So in a Bernoulli's trial, we were saying we'll have only two options, success or failure. Coin toss is the same. We could say that we will have either heads or tails. We can take success as heads. We can take failure as tails. We'll have true or false. Such statements also come into Bernoulli's distribution or Bernoulli's trial. But we can actually create any type of situation into a Bernoulli's trial. Let's say if I was saying dice, roll of dice, and I am saying that if I get even numbers, that is success, and if I get odd numbers, then I have failure. So probability of getting even numbers or my success will actually be half, and probability of getting failure is going to be half. Or if I say that if I get 1, 2, 3, 4, then I win, and if I get 5, 6, I lose. So therefore now probability of success becomes 4 by 6 and probability of failure becomes 2 by 6. So we can create two categories whenever we require. We can take one thing as success and the other thing as failure. We can combine our outcomes to give us success or to give us failure. So we can make a lot of things into Bernoulli's trial, but we are talking about only one single trial. What happens if we combine multiple trials? If we combine multiple trials, we get nothing but a binomial distribution. So in a binomial distribution, we write it in this form. We say x follows binomial n comma theta. N and theta are nothing but parameters. Parameters are constant unknown values that if we change, we get different data sets. So that means we can fit it into different data. I'll give you an example later on. Here we say our x is nothing but our number of successes in n trials, and n is nothing but number of trials, number of Bernoulli's trials. And we say the probability of success in each trial is nothing but r theta. So you should remember this. Here we are assuming that these all trials are nothing but independent trials. So we are saying probability of occurring in one is not affecting probability of occurring in the others. So let's take an example of coin tosses. So if I toss a coin once, I will get heads or I'll get tails. Now if I toss another coin, I'll get another head or tails. That I can say I'll get either head tails, tails heads, or tail. If I do it again and again, let's say 4 times, then these are the possible values that I might get. I might get from all 4 heads to all 4 tails and all the possible outcomes in between. So if I toss a coin 4 times, these are nothing but all the possible outcomes that I can get. Now if I want to figure out what is the probability that out of these 4 coin tosses, I will get 3 heads. So for that, I have these 4 possibilities. In only these 4 possibilities, I have exactly 3 heads. So I'll say probability that I have 3 successes would be equal to I'll say 4C3. That means out of four places, I have to select 3 places to arrange my successes, 3 heads. And then I'll say I'll have 3 successes and 1 failure. So I have 3 heads and 1 tails in each one of them. So probability in each one of them is going to be theta into theta into theta into 1 minus theta. Similarly here you would say theta into 1 minus theta into theta into theta, because we are assuming each coin tosses are independent of each other. We are not saying that our first coin toss is going to affect the second coin toss. Whether I get heads or tails in my first coin toss does not affect whether I'll get heads or tails in my second coin toss. So these are all independent trials. Just 1 second. You can assign any symbol to probability of success. Usually the books, you might have studied that they write P and Q, does not matter. I'm just teaching you how it is written in our course. Okay, so you can definitely use PQ if you want. So in binomial, we say our x follows bin n comma theta, where we are saying our n is nothing but the number of trials and x is the number of successes we want. So we say probability, a general value, x is equals to x, would be, first we will select out of n trials, we'll select x places or x ways to get our successes. And then we'll have probability of x successes and probability of n minus x failures, in which our possible values of x starts from 0, 1, 2 and goes maximum till n. So the possible values that x can take is 0 to n. So here, if I want to find my expected value would be what? We'll say summation for all values of x into probability of x. But here we will have to add up multiple combinations. That is not part of our course. We have not learned how to add up multiple combinations in this particular manner. So what we do is, we say our binomial distribution is nothing but n Bernoulli's trial. Each Bernoulli's trial had expected value as theta. So n such Bernoulli's trial will give us expected value n theta. Same thing we do with our variance. We say that each Bernoulli trial had variance theta into 1 minus theta. So n Bernoulli's trials will have n theta into 1 minus theta. So this becomes nothing but our binomial distribution. Now I'll take an example. I'll say probability of getting sick due to cold is 0.1. Okay, or you can say 10%, both would be correct. Probability can be written in percentages or in decimal. So we'll say 0.1. Okay. Find the probability that out of 10 children, I will take different options. First would be that no one is sick. Second, I will take, let's say, 8 are sick, and 5 are sick. So if I need to find probability that no one is sick out of 10 children. Now see, this is a binomial distribution. And how do we recognize? First of all, probability of success would be given, and total number of trials will be given. So here probability of success is 0.1 and our total number of trials is 10. So we'll write it as x follows binomial 10 comma 0.1. The probability that no one will be sick is probability x is equals to 0. That becomes our 10C0, 0.1 raised to 0, and 0.9. 1 minus theta becomes 0.9 raised to 10. So 10C0 is nothing but 0. 0.9 raised to 10 is 0.348678. So there is a almost 35% chance that no one is going to be sick, because probability of getting sick is small. What is the probability that 8 people are sick or 8 children are sick? We'll say 10C8, we'll have 0.1 raised to 8, and then 0.9 raised to 2, n minus theta, n minus x. So that would be 10 minus 8. So in our calculator, we directly can write our combinations. How do we write combinations? I think I did explain this. We have just above division, you will see NCR written in yellow. Okay. So that NCR written in yellow, we can access using shift. So we'll say 10, then shift division. So we get a C and 8. So this becomes our 10C8 into, we'll have 0.1 raised to 8, then into 0.9 raised to 2. So we are getting 0.000003645. So the probability that 8 students would be sick or 8 children would be sick is very small. So this is how we actually see. Let's say that I have 20 students in my class and 16 out of them are sick, or let's say 10 students in my class and 8 students are sick. So I will say this is something more than just cold. Correct? Because students being sick at random, because probability is so small, 8 student getting sick out of 10 is very small. So likelihood of that happening is very small. It can still happen, but probability is very small. So if more and more students are getting sick, I should be worried that it is not cold, right? Then third, 5 are sick, probability x is equals to 5. Just say 10C5, 0.1 raised to 5, 0.9 raised to 5. I can reuse the equation. If you do not press on your calculator, your equations will be stored. So if you press up arrow key, you can use those equations that we have already written. So you can see if I keep on going up, I will get other equations, right? So I'll say 10C8 here. If I press now my side arrow key, I will get my cursor. Instead of 8, I want 5. here I want 5, and here I want 5. So the probability of 5 student getting sick, 0.001488. So there is around 0.15% chance that 5 students are going to get sick. Okay. So this is how we look at the probability distribution, and we look our actual sample to figure out our assumption that it is cold or not, or people are getting sick due to cold or not. We can conclude about that just by looking at the sample as well as finding the probability of that happening. So if for randomly selecting 10 people, if 8 people are sick, if I do it again and again, I find a lot of people getting sick. So I would say this is most likely not due to cold, because 10 out of 10 people, 8 getting sick, probability is very, very, very small. So this is how we use our binomial distribution. Now our next distribution is geometric distribution. Now in our geometric distribution, we have two types of distribution, type 1 and type 2. I'll talk about type 2 later on. Let's talk about type 1 first. Now we say x follows geometric theta. This is how we write our geometric distribution, where our x is nothing but the trial that gives our first success, and theta is nothing but probability of success. Now just a simple example, let's say we are telecallers and we are trying to sell a product on our phones, okay, on calls. If we need to figure out what is the probability that on our 10th call I will be able to sell my first product, that would be nothing but our geometric distribution. So for that, let's say from our past data, I know that in every 100 call, I am able to sell one product. That means probability of success becomes 0.01. Okay. So I can use that. So how do we find that? Let's say we are saying that we get success in our first trial. So x is equals to 1. That means we directly get success. So probability of success is nothing but theta. Let's say we get success in our second trial. So our first success is our second trial. That means I will get one failure and then I will get a success. So probability becomes 1 minus theta into theta. Now let's say my third trial is my first success. So I will get two failures and then a success. So the probability becomes 1 minus theta square and then on theta. We get general probability as r 1 minus theta raised to x minus 1 into theta. So we say general probability would be 1 minus theta raised to x minus 1 into theta. So we are saying our x trial is going to be our first success. So that means we'll have x minus 1 failures. So what are the possible outcomes? So or what are the possible values of our x? So for our first success, we'll require at least one trial. So we'll say x will be equal to 1 or 2. That means one failure and then success, or 3. That would be two failures and then one success, and so on. What are the limits? So we'll say I can get infinite failures before I get my first success. So therefore the possibility is infinite, probability not so much. Now let's assume that probability that, okay, first I'll find my expected value. So for this, we'll say our expected value. Now, whenever we write expected value, we always write capital letter inside our bracket. That means we are talking about as a variable. But when I write summation, I say for all values of x, because we are talking about all values of our variable. Here, but I write small x into probability x as a variable and small x as a number. So whenever I write small x, that is nothing but the possible number, and wherever I write capital X, that is nothing but our variable. So we say this is summation x going from 1 to infinity, and I'll get 1 minus theta the whole raised to x minus 1 into theta. I can take theta out, there is no x here. I'll get, and I substitute, I'll get 1 plus 1 minus theta plus 1 minus theta square plus 1 minus theta cube and so on. So this is nothing but our infinite GP. So first of all, what is the formula of sum of a GP? Sum of GP we say is nothing but 1 let's say if I have a geometric progression AR, AR square, AR cube, so last value becomes AR raised to n minus 1, n values, then sum of GP becomes A into 1 minus r raised to n upon 1 minus r if r is less than 1. R we call it as ratio. If r is less than 1, we say sum of GP is going to be this. Sum of infinite GP is nothing but we take n as infinity. Here when we say n is infinity, x1 minus theta into theta, which part? X 1 minus theta into theta. Yes, so I have taken theta out. I've taken theta out and I'll get 1 minus theta raised to x minus 1. So when I put x is equals to 1, I get 1 minus theta raised to 0. Okay. Right. My mistake. This should be x into this. Okay. So I'll have 1 and then 2 times, then 3 times, and then 4 times, right? This is what we are going to get. Okay. So first of all, I'll talk about sum of our infinite GP. Sum of infinite GP, if r is less than 1, let's take half. Half square becomes 1 by 4. Half cube becomes 1 by 8. Half raised to 4 becomes 1 by 16. Each time it is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. So if I take very large value, then it becomes very small. That is nothing but 0. Okay. So we say r raised to infinity will be equal to 0, or it will be so small that compared to that 1 it will be 0. So we get a upon 1 minus r. This is nothing but our sum of GP. Now this here is not geometric progression. If you see, this is not exactly geometric progression. This is a special series called arithmetic geometric progression, or AGP. Okay, AGP. So I can say AGP is nothing but my 1 plus 2r plus 3r square plus 4r cube and so on. Now AGP, we do not write a general formula for AGP, but there is a very simple way of solving. So what we do is we multiply by the ratio. So we'll say RS and then we subtract. So I'll write R below R. I'll write R square below R square r cube, and so on. So I have shifted each value by 1 so that I get r below r. I'll subtract. So this side becomes 1 minus r times s, and here I'll get 1 as it is. I'll get r, and here I'll get r square, r cube, and so on. So this becomes nothing but our infinite GP now, where our first term is 1 and ratio is r. This would be 1 by 1 minus r because of our infinite GP. So our sum becomes 1 by 1 minus r the whole square. This is how we solve AGP. I will substitute that my expected value will be theta into 1 by 1 minus of 1 minus theta the whole square. 1 minus of 1 minus theta would be theta. So I get theta by theta square, or 1 by theta. Our expected value for a geometric distribution is 1 by theta. Now for variance, we'll have to calculate expected value of x square. We'll have summation x square into theta, into, I'll say 1 minus theta, the whole raised to x minus 1 into theta. So again, I'll take theta common. This is again going from x is equals to 1 to infinity. I'll get 1 plus 2 into 1 minus theta. 2 square into 1 minus theta. 3 square into 1 minus theta square. 4 square into 1 minus theta cube, and so on. Now this is also a special series, but this is not AGP. This term is not arithmetic progression. In this, we had one term as arithmetic progression and the other term as geometric progression. These were multiplied together. That is why how we said that this was arithmetic geometric progression. Whereas this is not AGP, but we solve it very similar to AGP. So what we do is, we say our sum is 1 plus 2 square r plus 3 square r square plus 4 square r cube, and so on. We again multiply by our ratio and shift by 1. So we'll have r plus 2 square r square plus 3 square r cube, and so on. And we subtract. So here we'll get 1 minus r into s. And here I'll get 1 plus 2 square was 4. 4 minus 1 becomes 3. Then 3r. Then plus 9 minus 4 will give me 5. 16 minus 9 will give me 7. Now you can predict the next value. What will be the next value? Would be 9 r raised to 4. Why? Because this is now AGP. One value is arithmetic progression, the other is geometric progression. Again, we will multiply it by r and shift by 1. And then we will subtract. There I'll get 2r, 2r square, 2r cube, and so on. So clearly this is nothing but our infinite GP. where our first term is 2r and our ratio is r. So I'll get 2r by 1 minus r, a upon 1 minus r. So our s, or I can just solve this first. I'll get 1 plus r upon 1 minus r. So I get 1 plus r upon 1 minus r whole cube. I'll substitute this back. We said our expected value, we took our theta out, and r was nothing but 1 minus theta. So I'll have 1 plus 1 minus theta upon 1 minus of theta was nothing but theta, the theta cube. So here we'll get 2 minus theta by theta cube. This was expected value of x square, right? So our variance, would be 2 minus, this would be theta square, not theta cube. Okay. So 2 minus theta upon theta square minus 1 by theta whole square. That is nothing but 1 minus theta upon theta square. This becomes our variance, our expected value and variance. Again, the derivation is not important, but how to solve AGP and how to solve this special series is going to be very much important. Okay, you should know these methods. Again, if you have cube here instead of square, if I had cube and cube and cube, we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it 3 times. Okay, this becomes our expected value and variance. You don't even have to remember these expected value and variance because they are given in our table formula book. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, let's do that. We have our actual formula book now. From page number 6, we have different distributions. So we have statistical distributions. So for discrete distribution, the first is binomial distribution. For binomial distribution, now this is another way of writing our combination. This is nothing but NCX. Now see, here they have taken P as our probability and Q as our 1 minus P. I've mentioned here. Okay, so you can definitely use P and Q, not a big deal. It's just in our book, everywhere we have written theta and 1 minus theta. So we use that. Okay. Then we'll see what is PGF, MGF later on, but we have our expected value and variances given here as well. So we have probability and we have expected value and variances. Then Bernoulli distribution. Bernoulli distribution is same as binomial distribution with parameter n is equals to 1. So here we are saying we have n Bernoulli's trials. So if we take only one Bernoulli's trial, our binomial distribution becomes our Bernoulli's distribution. Then we'll study this negative binomial right now, but they say that a geometric distribution is same as a negative binomial distribution with parameter k is equals to 1. So here if I put k is equals to 1 in my expected value, I get 1 by p or 1 by theta, and here it will be 1 minus theta upon theta square. So everything is given in our table book. You can find that because this table book is provided to you in your examination. You don't have to worry about it. You have that as a reference, but majority of the values we'll remember as we will go on solving. So I'll take a question. Let's say probability of selling a good or selling something in one day is 0.4. So I'm saying there's a 40% chance that I will be able to sell a particular good in one day. Find the probability that our fifth day will be our first sale. So here you can see that we have probability as theta and there is some n given, but this is not actually n, this is our x. Here we are saying that our x is following geometric distribution with probability 0.4. You can clearly see theta is given and they are asking us that our fifth day would be our first sale. That is what we are trying to figure out. So probability that x will be equal to 5 because x was nothing but the number of trial that was our first success. That would be, we will have 4 failures, so 0.6 raised to 4, and then we will have a success that becomes 0.4. So we get probability as 0.05184. So there's a 5% chance that our fifth day would be our first sale. I can make a graph out of finding all these probabilities, and this is how it will look. The probability that I will be able to sell in my first day is going to be 40%. So we'll just get theta. So 40% becomes here. Then for this next one, we'll have 0.6 into 40%. Then we'll have 0.6 square into 40%. And this is around 5%. You can see that. So our expected value is nothing but 1 by theta. That would be 2.5. So averagely it takes 2.5 days to get my first sale. That is what this expected value is telling us. So if I am selling door to door, I know that in 2.5 days I'll be able to sell at least one good. So that ways I can set my target. I'll say that in 1 month how many sale I should be able to do, or how many I should do. Okay, so for that, how many houses should I actually visit in one particular day? That is how we can basically form this particular geometric distribution or use this geometric distribution. You can see that the geometric distribution is a positively skewed distribution. That means most of our data is at the beginning of our values. Most of our values are at the beginning, and as we go along, the values become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, this will always be the shape of a geometric distribution. The scale will be different. Now, even if the probability here after 10, 11, 12 is very, very, very small, we still have a probability. It might still take me 12 days to get my first sale. Okay, that is also a possibility. Okay, so it might even take more than that. There is possibility of going much further. It just probability is so small that they become irrelevant. they become so small that that will never happen or almost never happen. That is what we'll always say. That becomes our geometric distribution. Now this was type 1. The problem with type 1 was that our possible values started from 1. We said that our x will go from 1 to infinity. Now this is a very good type of a distribution for something called something that we use in insurance is nothing but number of claims. Geometric distribution is very good distribution for number of claims. I'll give you an example. Let's say that we are talking about a car insurance. In a car insurance, they say that if you get into an accident, they will pay how much ever the repair is worth. Let's assume every single time I have to pay 5,000 rupees. It will never be always same, but we are assuming it same for the sake of this example. So I pay 5,000 rupees as an insurance company every single time. Expected value is not where it crosses 50%. If it crosses 50%, that is called as our median. Okay, so expected value is average value. If I do it again and again and again, where do I get my average value? That is expected value, and 50% is nothing but our median. Okay, so here we said our expected value was 2.5. That means if I do this again and again and again, let's say 1,000 times, averagely it takes 2.5 days to get my first success. Okay, that is what we are saying. Sometimes it will take less than 2.5 days. Sometimes it will take more than 2.5 days, but averagely it will take 2.5 days. Now, when we talk about our median, that is nothing but where cumulative probability becomes 0.5. So here 0.4 was at 1, right? 0.4 was at 1. So 0.5 is definitely at 2. So our median is 2. Our expected value is 2.5. So there's a difference. Okay, median would be 2. Expected value will be 2.5. Let's get back. So we were saying that averagely the cost of each repair is, let's say, 5,000. Now you can have as many accidents as you want in one particular year and the company will still pay. So let's say if you have your first accident in January, your car gets repaired and you again have another accident in February, the company will have to pay again. Then you have another accident in March and the company will have to pay again. So how many such accidents you can have? Possible values are infinite, but is that actually probable? Would I actually get infinite accidents ever, or would I get 300 accidents of one single car in a particular year, or 365 accidents in one particular year? It is impossible in practical life, but theoretically, yes, why not? Right? Theoretically, let's say that is possible. We will not remove our possibilities because practically it is impossible. So what we do is we say it is possible, but it is likely, not probable. So probability becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So number of accidents can still follow our geometric distribution, and we know that the probability becomes smaller and smaller and smaller as we go further and further and further. But the problem is, whenever we talk about insurance, we want majority of the people to not have an accident. So we want majority of the people to not have an accident. That is one of the most important things. Why do we want majority of people not to have an accident? because if everybody has at least one accident, then I would have to pay at least 5,000 rupees to everyone. So I will have to charge more than 5,000 rupees. So I would say that give me 6,000 rupees so that I will pay you 5,000 rupees if you have an accident. That does not make any sense. Nobody is going to buy that policy. So insurance only works if majority of the people do not claim, do not have an accident. Only then the insurance would work. So therefore, we would want possibility of x being equal to 0. That is not possible in our geometric type 1. So that is why we have our geometric type 2. So we say y follows our geometric theta type 2. So I have just taken y because we are going to relate our x and y. That is why I have taken y here. We'll assume x is still type 1. So here theta is still probability of success, but y is nothing but the number of failures before our first success. So we are still counting only up till our first success. We do not care how many successes we are going to get later on. We are still only counting up till our first success. But we are counting our number of failures, not number of trials. In our x, it was number of trials. So here we get probability, our y will be equal to y. So I will have y failures and then one success. The number of failures is equals to y. So my total trials will be y plus 1. So here we say our possible value of y, we can have 0 failures before our first success. That means our first value was success. We can have 1 failure before our first success. We can have 2 failures, or we can have infinite failures before our first success. Clear? So our relationship between y and x, we'll say our y, when we have 0 failures, our x was equals to 1. When we had 1 failure, our x was equals to 2. When we had 2 failures, our x was equals to 3, and so on. So I can say my y is nothing but my x minus 1. So number of failures would be equal to number of trials minus 1. So here, if I want to find expected value, I can definitely use the methods that we used before, but I will directly use the expected value properties. So we'll say this gives me nothing but expected value of x minus expected value of 1, and expected value of a constant would be constant itself. This becomes 1 minus theta, sorry, this becomes 1 by theta minus 1. That would be 1 minus theta upon theta. Variance of y gives us variance of x minus 1, and variance of a constant is 0. So if a constant is added or subtracted to a variable, variance has no effect. So we'll have variance of x. There's no effect of adding or subtracting a constant. This gives us nothing but 1 minus theta upon theta square. So for type 2, our expected value and our variance is exactly same, but our expected value is different. Understood? If you have any problem in type 1 and type 2, just tell me. or I should move forward? So here our expected value of y, I'll just show you. Just give me 1 second. So here this becomes nothing but our probability distribution when we say that we have geometric distribution type 2. So our value starts from 0. Now you see the probability is exactly same because it is the same distribution. It's just shifted by 1. So our expected value would be 1 minus theta by theta. That gives us nothing but 1.5. It's exactly the same position as before. It's just calculated in a different way, and because our values are taking different values, that is why it has shifted by 1. Because f1 is equals to 0.4 and f2 is equals to 0.65, so it will be between 1 and 2. Now it will not be between, now see, okay, so you're talking about median. So we are saying that our probability x equal to 1 was 0.4, probability x equal to 2 was 0.24, that was 0.6 into 0.4. So probability x less than equal to 2 is equals to 0.64, right? Now because this is a discrete distribution, that is why our possible value of median would be either 1 or 2. Okay, so that is why our median will be 2, not between 1 and 2. Okay, so for discrete distribution, mean can take any value in between, but median and mode must be an integer value, must be one of those values of x. Okay, we'll talk about those things later on. First we'll talk about these distributions. So we'll move forward. This was nothing but our geometric distribution. Now I will take the same example as before for type 2. So we said that probability of selling a good in 1 day is 0.4. Now I'll just change the formula, change the question in a different way. Find the probability that we will have no sale in 4 days before our first sale. So what I've done is change the question slightly a little bit. So it becomes, we have 4 failures before our first success. So that means y follows geometric 0.4, again probability of success here. Okay, and this becomes nothing but type 2. So in type 2, we, instead of x being equal to 5, we'll have probability y equal to 4. Instead of 1 minus theta raised to x minus 1, we'll have 1 minus theta raised to y and then theta. And you'll see that is nothing but the same value. It will be the same value. So type 1 and type 2 gives you the same answers. It's just written in a different way. So you have to predict whether it is type 1 or type 2. If we are talking about number of failures before our first success, we are talking about type 2. If we are talking about total number of trials for our first success, then we are talking about type 1. That is how we figure out whether we have type 1 or type 2. Geometric distribution. Now our next distribution is nothing but our negative binomial distribution. Okay, somebody asked something. Let me just read it. How do we identify any of the distribution? Now we'll do a lot of sums, so you don't have to worry about it, and I will show you. Like in binomial, we said probability of success would be given and total number of trials would be given, and they will ask us x, that was nothing but number of successes in n trials, right? So they would ask, find the probability that I will have 6 successes in out of 10. That would be nothing but binomial distribution. If I say, find the probability that I will get my first success in 7th trial, that is nothing but a geometric, that to type 1. If I say I will have 6 failures before my first success, that is also geometric, but that is type 2. So it's about the language that we'll have to predict which kind of distribution it is. That will be by practice only. Okay, so as you keep on practicing those particular sums, you will understand them much better, how to identify a particular distribution. So after we have studied more distributions, I'll be talking about the difference between distributions, and I will take different examples in which we'll have different types of distributions. So our next distribution is negative binomial distribution. Negative binomial distribution also has two types, type 1 and type 2. Now, why do we have two types? The reason is exactly same as geometric, but we'll see that later on. So in a negative binomial distribution, we write it as x follows our negative binomial n by bin, and we have two parameters k and theta. Now by now you might have guessed theta will always be probability of success, but x is nothing but the trial, that is kth success. So here instead of first success, we are talking about kth success. So in geometric we had first success, negative binomial we are talking about kth success. K is nothing but the number of successes and theta is probability of successes. So if I say in our 5 trials, we get our third success. So instead of saying 3 successes in 5 trials, because that becomes a binomial distribution, I would say my 5th trial is our third success. So here 3 successes in 5 trials becomes binomial. Now what's the main difference? Now for negative binomial, this is how our chart will look like. So I will see all our successes in our 5th trial. So you can see last trial has all successes. You can see here. And you can also see that the possibility of getting my fifth trial as my third success, I should have at least two trials actually I should have exactly two trials in other four successes or other four trials. I should have at least two successes in the other four trials. So I should have two failures and two successes. So you can see head, heads, tails, tails, and then heads. And we'll have head, tails, heads, tails, heads, head, tails, tails, head, head, tail, head, head, tail, head, and so on. So I have these 6 possible trials where I will get my third success in my fifth trial. So we'll say probability that x is equals to 3 would be nothing but I will now my last value is fixed. My last value is going to be a success, but I don't know where my other two successes are going to be. So for that, I'll use combination. I'll say in our 4 trials, I have to select 2 places for our successes, and then probability of 3 successes and 2 failures. So I will not arrange all values because my last value already has a success. Last trial will always have a success. It is the kth success. So I have to arrange in x minus 1 places k minus 1 successes. And then probability of all successes into probability of all failures. So negative binomial type 1. We'll say probability x is equals to x was nothing but our x minus 1 c k minus 1 theta raised to k 1 minus theta raised to x minus k. So our x is nothing but total number of trials here. Okay, so our x is total number of trials. Now how many total number of trials will we require to get at least k successes? So minimum value of x, I should have at least k trials to get k successes. Okay, all k trials will be successes, no failures. Then I might get one failure and k successes, so I'll get k plus 1 trials or k plus 2 trials, and so on. The maximum number would be again infinite. So you can see our possible value of x starts from k and goes till infinity. Now you can tell the problem here, the problem clearly is that our x does not start from 0. Okay. So anyways, that is why we'll have type 2. First we'll see type 1. So the expected value, again we have combinations. We'll not do expected value when we have combinations. So what we do is we say this is nothing but k geometric distributions combined together. If I combine k geometric distributions, I should get a negative binomial distribution. So for one geometric distribution, expected value is 1 by theta. So for k geometric distribution, I should get k by theta. Same thing with variance. For one geometric distribution, if my variance is 1 minus theta by theta square, so for k geometric distribution, I should get k into 1 minus theta by theta square. Again, you do not have to remember this. You can see for a negative binomial type 1, our expected value is k by p and kq by p square. And we have type 2 as well. So if I say y follows negative binomial k comma theta type 2. Now here we are counting number of failures. So we'll say y is nothing but number of failures before kth success. Here again we are counting number of failures, but we are counting before we get our kth success. So we'll stop as soon as we get our kth success. K is again number of successes, and theta as usual probability of success. So here we don't know how many total trials we are getting. Here we have y failures, or I'll say k successes and y failures. So that means I am getting total trials of k plus y. I'm getting k successes and y failures. But if I say out of k plus y trials, I have k successes, that becomes my binomial distribution. So what is negative binomial distribution? It is that my k plus yth trial, that means my last trial, is my kth success. It is my last success. Then it becomes a negative binomial distribution. So here my probability y is equals to y will just translate my x must be k plus y, and we'll just substitute that, and we'll get total number of trials minus 1 c k minus 1, because again my last value is fixed, and then probability of successes into probability of failures. Here our y goes from 0, 1, 2 till infinity. We'll say y is nothing but x minus k. So our expected value of y would be expected value of x minus k. That becomes k into 1 minus theta by theta. And variance is unchanged. Variance of y will be equal to variance of x minus k. K is a constant. This just becomes variance of x. That would be k times 1 minus theta by theta square. You can see type 2. Our expected value is kq by t. And here we have kq by p square. Now, if you are getting confused that I said that our books are written in terms of theta, but here we have in terms of p and q. This is our actual formula table book, and this is our actual book. This is the book that we are going to refer. Here we'll find p and 1 minus p written as well, and theta and 1 minus theta written as well. So you can use any symbol. They don't penalize you for using different symbols. That is not going to be the case. Okay. So this becomes a negative binomial. I'll take an example. Let's say probability of having a girl child is 0.49. Find the probability that a woman, woman's, how do we write? I think S apostrophe or something like that, whatever. Woman's fifth child is her third daughter. So here you can see we have probability that is given. We are talking about our third success, and they are talking about our fifth child being our third success. That means clearly we are talking about negative binomial. Our fifth value, fifth trial must be our third success. So we'll say X follows negative binomial. Is it type 1 or type 2? This is type 1 because we are counting number of trials that gives us kth success. So this is type 1. We say probability that X will be equal to 5 would be, we'll have 4 C2. So because our fifth is definitely a success, out of the rest of 4 we'll have to select any 2 position to arrange our successes, and then we'll have theta raised to 3. We have 3 successes and 1 minus theta raised to 2 failures. So we'll have 0.49 cube and 0.51 square. So 4C2 49 cube into 0.51 square. Now if you see here, we said her fifth child is her third daughter. There is no mention of how many total number of child she had. It can be infinite, does not matter. We are talking about her fifth child being her third daughter. Okay, that is what was important here. Now similarly, I can make another question. I'll keep my first same sentence. Probability of having a girl child is 0.49. Find the probability that a woman will have 2 sons before her third daughter. So again, if I take probability of having a girl child as success, then having sons become our failures. So we have 2 failures before our third success. So our Y follows negative binomial. Again, K is 3 because 3 successes, and our theta is 0.49. Again, we write here number of successes and number of probability of successes. We do not write anything about our failures here. Only Y becomes our number of failures before our kth success. So before we get our third daughter, we should have 2 failures, that is 2 sons. When? We don't care. But we are counting, we are saying 1 son, failure. So 1 failure, then 2 son, another failure. Then we'll have daughter, daughter, daughter. So okay, that is okay. Or daughter, son, son. Then we have daughter, daughter. Or daughter, son, daughter, son, daughter. As soon as we get our third daughter, we stop counting. So this would be, we'll have K plus Y. So I will have 3 plus 2 minus 1. C, I will have 3 minus 1, that is our K minus 1. And probability of success raised to number of successes into probability of failure raised to number of failure. So you can see this is again 4C2 0.49 cube 0.51 square. It's exactly the same. So type 1 and type 2 gives us exactly the same probability. It's just asked in a different manner. So you can definitely solve type 1 sums using type 2 and type 2 sums using type 1. Nobody is going to penalize you for that, but if you solve it correctly, it gives the impression of you understand a particular sum. One thing to note, that if ever there comes a question where they just mention that number of claims follow either negative binomial or geometric distribution, then it will always be type 2, because we talked about this. Number of claims in an insurance will always has to have 0 as a possibility. So if they do not mention anything else, they directly say number of claims follows a negative binomial distribution or number of claims follows a geometric distribution, then it will always be a type 2 distribution. I have taken an example of negative binomial distribution where I think I took k as 5 and theta as 0.4. So k as 5, theta as 0.4. So expected value would be 5 by 0.4. 12.2. How do I get 16 then? Or I took 0.3. Did I take 0.3? Yeah, I took 5 and 0.3, and I'll just show you the graph of that. This is the graph of a negative binomial distribution. Now you can see we do not have any value that is less than 5. So our graph starts from 5. This is type 1. Okay. And it rises and then it falls. And our expected value 5 upon 0.3 comes out to be 16.67. So here we have our expected value. It's just to show you how do we get our graphs. Just to show you how negative binomial graphs look like. Again, in our actual formula table book, we do have our probability. Now this is gamma. I'll talk about that later. We have a whole distribution in which we'll be talking about these symbols. You don't have to worry about it right now. Okay. And we have expected value and our variance. For type 1, we have our expected value and our variance and probability. We have binomial. We are still to study a few more distribution, actually 2 more discrete distribution, and then we will have our continuous distributions as well. Okay. But I think we'll end our class here. Now in any graph, y-axis is representing nothing but the probabilities. So when I say x is equals to x, probability of x is nothing but our y here. So in any graph, this y is nothing but probability at a single point, that is this x. So at 0.5, what would be our probability? At 0.6, what would be our probability? That is what this graph is representing. So this is called as probability distribution graph. We can do one more actually. We have enough time. We'll do one more distribution. Now next distribution is hypergeometric distribution. Now hypergeometric distribution, there is only one property that is significant to hypergeometric distribution, that is that the trials are not independent of each other. Now, up till now, we have seen binomial, we have seen geometric, we have seen negative binomial. In all of these threes, we had our different Bernoulli trials, and all of those Bernoulli trials were independent of each other. Now here, they are not independent of each other. So what is the significance? The probability of the trials is affected by the outcomes of previous trials. Now let's take an example. We have solved these kinds of sums. If I take a deck of cards and I select a few cards without replacement, the probability of getting 3 aces out of 5 randomly selected cards without replacement would be what? You would say out of 4 aces, I am selecting 3. Out of 42 non-ace cards, I am selecting 2. Upon out of 52 cards, I am selecting any 5. We have done this. We have done this in our probability chapter. And the questions of a hypergeometric distribution and question of our probability of non-independence is exactly same. You will not be able to tell the difference between those sums. So that is why we don't treat this as a distribution. This is just mentioned in our book, so we talk about it. I'll take another example. Let's say I'm selecting a team out of a group of people. We have talked about this. We said that probability of selecting a team of 3 actuaries and 2 accountants from a group of 20 actuaries and 30 accountants, that would be equal to our first selecting 3 from 20 actuaries and then selecting 2 from 30 accountants upon selecting 5 out of total 50 people. We did these kinds of sums. That is nothing but our hypergeometric distribution. Okay. So today we'll end our class here and we'll continue tomorrow. Okay. So we'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have 10 a.m. to 12 and we will be using the same link that I have shared today. Okay, it's the same link that we have been using. If you have any other doubts. Okay, so in our previous example, our expected our 0.3 was nothing but probability. 0.3 was probability. Okay, so for graph, I took k is equals to 5 and theta as 0.3 just for making that graph. So we said y follows, actually it was x, it was not type 2, it was type 1. We said our x follows negative binomial 5 comma 0.3. So our expected value was 5 by 0.3. That gave us 16.667. That was our expected value. Okay, that I took as an example just for making the graph. So we'll end our class here now. Before we go, I will say that we will have another class on Wednesday and Thursday, not Wednesday, and it will be an evening class. So we'll have another class on Wednesday, again Thursday. So we'll have another class on Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. In that class, we'll be solving only sums, and we'll be solving only sums of our basic chapters. So the 3 basic chapters that we did, I gave you some homework as well. You should solve them. You should solve the full assignment of basic chapters. And we will be, I shared that in our classroom app. Whoever is in that classroom app can download that assignment of basic chapters as well. And we will be discussing sums on Thursday. So what I have planned is every week we will have Saturday and Sunday classes that we will use for our concept building. And we will have another Thursday class in which we'll be solving sums and we'll be solving doubts. Okay. So I have said 6 to 8. We will start at 6, and if it takes longer, we'll go till 9 as well. Not a big deal. Okay. So Thursday we'll be solving sums and we'll be solving doubts. Now, by chance, if somebody cannot attend on Thursday, that's not a big deal. You can share your doubts in the classroom app, or you can ask me on Saturday or Sunday as well. But we will not solve a lot of doubts at this time because we'll be learning new concept. On Thursday, we will not be learning any new concept. We'll be only solving sums. Okay. And I will be definitely recording all the lectures and sharing in the classroom app. For now, there are no weekday batches.